Alright, team, so we are back, of course, to talk about some Final Fantasy VII Remake. So today we're here to talk about the Gold Saucer again, surprisingly, because that was our last video. We talked about the Gold Saucer date. This video idea actually came about because I'm playing through the game again on like ×3 speed, trying to run through it really quickly to get the best bromance trophy where you go on a date with Barret. And pretty much every time I play back through FF7, I come up with different video ideas. And today I want to look at the Gold Saucer and discuss some of the changes that I think need to be made. Now, this is somewhat related to previous videos we've done. We did a series of videos about the characters and whether or not Square Enix would change them when it comes to Remake. This is somewhat that, but it's more so things that I think they should change as opposed to whether or not I think Square Enix will change it. But first thing, we should start with the things about the Gold Saucer that don't need to change, namely the round square is one of them. It's just the gondola ride that you take around the Gold Saucer. This is where you go to for the dates, of course, in the game. Nothing needs to be changed here. It can just be the same thing within Remake. For this next one, I don't think it needs to be changed itself, but aspects of it need to be changed, and that's the speed square. And this is the like on rails, like roller coaster, like first person shooter sort of mini game. And for me personally, I think this needs to stay the same. I wouldn't even mind if they did some more courses or different tracks or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. But mostly, for me, it's always been hard as hell, dude. I suck at this. And this gameplay right here that I recorded earlier, I get like by the end of it like 1930 on my score. That might be the highest I've ever gotten in my entire fucking life. And you got to get like 3,000 for like a prize. And I know in Disc 1 and 2, you got to get like 5,000 score to get like some of the stronger weapons for Cid and Aerith. I have never even scratched the surface of getting those prizes, or probably any prize in this game. And I just suck at this. And the thing is, I play a lot of FPS games, a lot of first-person shooters. That's pretty much the only multiplayer games I play. I think I have pretty good hand-eye coordination. But something about this minigame I've just always been very, very terrible at. And I wouldn't mind if they dialed it back a little bit and made like the difficulty a little bit easier, if that makes any sense. Chocobo Score is another one that doesn't need to be changed either. Just add in the Chocobo Racing minigame. That's kind of it. I mean, if they want to add in like breeding and stuff later on where you can make like faster and more stamina Chocobos and all the other stuff, that'd be pretty cool too, but at least have the Chocobo Racing minigame. Pretty self-explanatory. Now, Wonder Square itself is one that doesn't inherently need to be changed, but I do hope that when it comes to Remake, there are new games here, and not just the exact same game options that were in the original FF7, because some of these I don't care to play, like whatever the Moogle one is we talked about in like a somewhat recent video. That's a minigame that's just not really that fun, so hopefully they replace that with something that is actually fun to play. Now on to the changes that I want to happen, or at least I think should happen. There's a GP limit in the original game of 10,000, which GP is the currency for Gold Saucer. There's never really a need for that much, like to hold that much at one time, so there's not really a need for a limit itself, and I think like the highest prize you can spend it on is like 2,000 GP, so again, there's not really a need for the limit, so you can just kind of get rid of it. And given that GP is essentially the currency for the Gold Saucer, I feel like you should be able to use it pretty much everywhere, and there should be more available places and shops and other things like that that you can spend GP on, because you can really only use it at the Wonder Square and at the Chocobo Races. You can also use it to stay at like the Ghost Hotel, and you can use it at the save point at the entrance, but that's kind of it, and that's kind of weird given that it's a unique currency for this location. Speaking of the Ghost Hotel or Ghost Square, this is actually a location I want them to change, but only for the positive, because I want it to actually be a relatively creepy location. Now, they obviously can't go like full-on horror, though I would love that, but at least give us something that's like on par with the Train Graveyard from Remake. Like that was for a Final Fantasy game, relatively kind of creepy, a little bit of a vibe to it. Definitely a good vibe, not really creepy, I guess. But just give us something like that, right? Because it's not even remotely scary, even if it's, I don't know if it's meant to be scary, the original FF7, but it's just kind of not. But going back to our previous point about the GP, there's actually a shop within the Ghost Hotel, but it requires Gil instead of GP, which to me just doesn't make a lot of sense, especially when you got to use GP to reserve a room here. And some of the items they sell within the shop are also some of the available Wonder Square like prizes, so they already have like the BP to Gil ratio, how much like an item is in BP instead of Gil. So I personally feel like they should change the currency at the hotel shop, even if these items aren't that important, but make you have to spend the GP that you get throughout Gold Saucer at this particular shop. And this is a small one, but I think it's worth mentioning also in relation to the Ghost Hotel, and it's Mr. Hangman. It's literally a person hanging from a noose. Now, whether or not it's meant to be a real person or a puppet or a zombie or whatever the hell it's supposed to be, I just don't know that we're going to see a person hanging from a noose. Could be wrong there. I hope I'm wrong, but remains to be seen. This next one I think is fairly obvious, and I'm pretty sure everybody would agree with me on this, but Event Square, it's literally only used for the date, and then any other time you come back here, it is completely empty, so add something to this. We know that there's at least Loveless within this universe. That's another like play, right? So maybe we could come here and watch the Loveless play potentially. That'd be kind of cool. Now, beyond the actual Loveless play, maybe they don't want to do that. They should at least come here and watch the actual play that you get to participate in with the date. Or at the very least, come here and there be something. At least some NPCs walking around, maybe people setting up the stage for the play later on. Whether or not you can actually watch the play, I'm not entirely sure, but still, just give us something here, because it's fucking empty. And lastly for this, we have the battle square. Now, inherently, again, similar to the Wonder Square, there's not a whole lot that needs to be changed here. I'm just not a fan of you having to commit to it to finish. Now, that's not that hard, really, especially later on in the game when you're a lot stronger and stuff like that. You can get upwards of like 10,000 plus BP per run, I think. You can get up to like 12,000 potentially. But I've just never personally been a fan of not being able to leave. Like, you have to stay here and keep doing this over and over until you get the right BP for the item that you want. And you could argue that that is part of the challenge. And of course it is. I would at least like to be able to like maybe have a machine somewhere in here or something, or a person where you can bank your BP and then leave or something. Or like a save point here, so maybe I can at least save the game and turn the game off and come back to it and finish my battle arena like playthrough or whatever, like, or something along those lines. Now, of course, this is not make or break. I've done this. I've got all the badass items from the Battle Square plenty of times throughout my life playing this. I'm committed to it several times, of course. So if they don't change it, it's not the biggest deal, but I would personally like to see that. That's just a quality of life change that I would enjoy. But my dudes, that is pretty much it for this video. So of course I want to pass up to you guys. When it comes to the Gold Saucer, what are some changes you'd like to see? Do you agree with some of the stuff in this video? Do you disagree with some of the stuff? What are some of your ideas for some of the changes that they could implement? Leave your thoughts more in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys aren't interested in more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on all my notifications. Follow me on Twitter, @DaveYT. On my Discord. The links to those networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect, we spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane, we in here like Low Gain, or leave it like Cobain.